Yesterday, every Democrat in the Senate and both of the so-called independents, who are also secret Democrats, voting against the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. Every single one, even though this issue has 80% support by the American public to not let boys into girls' sports. It's insane. That alone is a huge winner and winning moment for Trump tonight. Thoughts?
It's clearly a very popular policy nationally. This is perhaps one of the issues where Donald Trump, especially with respect to, by comparison to Democrats, has just been able to kind of lap his opposition. There are, I think, plenty of people like weirdo libertarians who have this concern about whether or not the federal government ought to be getting involved. And it is rather ironic and surprising to hear Democratic senators making arguments that we have made for years and years and years on a range of issues, that the states and the local government ought to be making these fundamental decisions about what's happening with specific kind of narrow issues. And this, in many respects, is a kind of specific and narrow issues. There are particular cases that have risen to national attention, as you just pointed out. But for the most part, I don't know that most people experience a lot of this stuff in their everyday lives. And the question that I've asked since Donald Trump's inauguration and the executive orders pertaining to this is whether or not the objective ought to be to try and pass executive orders or even to pass a new federal statute that is going to outlaw certain things, as opposed to trying to make certain that there's a kind of neutrality, that universities and the NCAA aren't trying to push particular values on parents and families and communities and even players, and incentivize things in the way that Joe Biden had before. And now Donald Trump is essentially trying to reverse that. The reason why you need some sort of federal legislation, if you're a conservative who's concerned about these issues, is because you know that just doing this with respect to executive orders, it's going to be tit for tat. As soon as Donald Trump is out of office, someone else is going to do this. So the question becomes perhaps going for pluralism, perhaps trying to make some of these things less ideological is a better path forward on a range of issues, even a lot of the diversity.
It's very hard because
stuff.
I take your point, state by state experiment and all that, but I actually do think it's a civil rights issue for girls and for women, and they're already entitled to this protection under the existing law. It just must be enforced.